What happens when you cast a hobbit with a male stripper's name as the lead villain of The Handmaid's Tale? The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Little Johnson was born January 30th, 1972 in Shreveport, Louisiana. The unplanned child of teenage parents, Mike would go on to be the biggest opponent of and biggest argument for abortion. His parents would end up getting divorced, and while I know you're supposed to say it's never the child's fault, there is exceptions to every rule, which is why I assume he became really anti-divorce as well. He believes in this creepy thing called covenant marriage, which basically legally forbids his wife from divorcing him. Which, to be fair, after all the work I'm assuming he had to put into tricking a woman into marrying him in the first place, him believing in that kind of makes sense. He graduated from Captain Shreve High School in 1995 before going on to Louisiana State to get a degree in business administration. Then he got his Juris Doctor from Paul M. Herbert Law Center. He used that Juris Doctor to practice constitutional law in the name of white Republican Jesus. If that seems counterintuitive, don't worry, it is. And it gets worse. He spent a good portion of his legal career working for Alliance Defending Freedom, which is a legal advocacy group that fights to take away people's freedoms. During his time there, he wrote an amicus brief opposing Lawrence v. Texas, which would go on to say that it is unconstitutional to criminalize sexual activity between two consenting adults, often known as sodomy laws, all while supporting sodomy laws that criminalized homosexuality. How's that for an alliance defending freedom? In 2015, he founded the nonprofit law firm The Freedom Guard, which represents poor, persecuted Christians whose rights to discriminate against everybody they think Jesus hates as being oppressed. He even represented that stupid ARC theme park in Kentucky when they were losing their tax-exempt status because they were requiring employees to affirm that they believed that Adam rode a velociraptor or whatever dumb shit they say in there. God bless me bad, I'm talking shit about a special little boy because it just started hailing on me. In addition to being an evil lawyer, he's also been an evil professor, teaching his stupid ideologies at none other than Liberty University. But Tiny Johnson must have felt that he wasn't ruining the world in the name of his magic sky daddy efficiently enough, so he decided he was going to take his special brand of awful evangelism public and run for Louisiana Congress. And it's Louisiana. We've all seen Waterboy. We know what they're working with down there, so obviously he won. He wasted no time as soon as he got into office proposing the Marriage Conscience Act. The act would have legally protected people who were discriminating against other people based on their personal feelings about marriage. Like if you thought chocolate and vanilla didn't belong together in the same ice cream cone, and Ben and Jerry's should really be Ben or Jerry's, you could legally deny them any services you like. The bill was so bad, even Louisiana Republicans didn't vote for it. And these are the same Louisiana Republicans who argued in 2019 that child marriage should be legal because a lot of 16 and 17-year-old girls are very mature. But lucky for Louisiana, he couldn't do too much damage because before he was done with his first term, he announced he was running for U.S. Congress. Well, he was running as a constitutional lawyer who's a constitutional Republican who believes in the theory of constitutionalism. He was simultaneously leading his state to join a convention of states so they could change the Constitution. You know, the one that he loves so much. He just wishes it was different in every way. Sadly, he won that race as well, and now we've all been subjected to his awfulness. Then he won again in 2018 after taking $37,000 from Russian oligarchs, because apparently the P in GOP stands for Putin. Speaking of Putin's puppets, prior to Trump winning the GOP nomination in 2016, Mike said that he didn't feel Trump was a moral enough man for the Oval Office. Although after Trump won the nomination, it was amazing to see how quickly a man who was so terrified of sodomy would swan dive into another man's ass. He endorsed Trump for election and re-election, opposed both impeachments, tried to overturn the election, spread election conspiracy theories. He basically found every single way possible to deep throat the Sherbert pervert. I mean, what did you expect? A man of good Christian values to have values? Ridiculous. Speaking of lacking values, the dude has been like the most extreme extremist in Congress. He takes there's just no hate like Christian love and there's just no authoritarianism like conservative freedom to all sorts of new levels. Not only has he advocated for banning things like gay marriage and trans healthcare, he just straight up says trans people are pedos and he wants to criminalize all homosexuality. He doesn't just want to make it illegal for them to get married or play in a sport, he just wants to make them illegal. Dude is so fucked in the head, he's opposed anti-bullying campaigns because he thinks that anti-bullying equates to saying that being gay is okay. Being gay is okay, but he wants us to keep bullying people because he wants gay kids to get bullied. He advocates for conversion therapy, he authored the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act, which was just legislation that said that libraries and schools or any public organization couldn't have any books or literature or anything that acknowledged that gay people exist at all. Because Mike's a creepy little goblin who hates people and doesn't doesn't want them to be happy. He's voted against increasing the minimum wage. He's voted against legalizing marijuana. And he wants to legally prevent you from getting divorced, which is ironic considering his lips are stained orange from his admiration of a thrice divorced serial adulterer, molester, and dude who publicly fantasizes about banging his own daughter. He also takes not believing in science to new levels. Like the rest of his party, he doesn't believe in climate change, but he also seems to think that the Flintstones was a documentary. He also doesn't believe that immigrants should exist. Any immigrants. He was a big fan of Trump's Muslim ban, tried to make it harder for asylum seekers to get asylum. He's tried to cut funding and aid for refugees. And he was one of the biggest reasons that the bipartisan immigration bill that gave his party pretty much everything they wanted got shot down. He is all about saving the children, Palestinian children. He's a big fan of saving them from existing on a planet with Mike Johnson. Unfortunately, he's going about that by sending our tax dollars to help deport them from this plane of existence. He also hates the idea that we have health care. He's tried repealing the ACA. He really hates women and the fact that they have health care. So he has gone to some of the most extreme methods you can possibly imagine to try to restrict women's access to health care. In addition to trying to defund family clinics, he's pushed to criminalize gynecologists who perform various gynecological services with literal prison time. He's blamed abortion for the breakup of the nuclear family. You know, the family his siblings probably could have had if his parents had just aborted him. He fucking blamed abortions for school shootings, which is... like, how do you get there, man? He also said because of abortions, we need to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid because, and he says the quiet part out loud, abortions are reducing the labor force, which is hurting the economy. So if you've ever thought to yourself that it sort of feels like Republicans might be trying to ban abortion so they can turn women into broodmares to provide a cheap labor force for their billionaire overlords, well, according to Mike Johnson, you're exactly right. So as a result, he has advocated for zero exception from conception abortion bans without even an exception for IVF. It is fucking draconian. Despite being so insanely awful, he was still just a creepy, annoying little gremlin that didn't have any friends. Even the other Republicans didn't want to be friends with him. He'd sit alone at the congressional cafeteria table eating his little pudding cup his slave wife packed for him. So until last year, nobody knew who the fuck he was. But Republicans who are so fucking incompetent and obsessed with not doing their job and gridlock that now they're not doing their job and gridlocking with themselves, they fired their own Speaker of the House that they just barely managed to hire months prior. And they all put on their clown outfits and piled into their Mini Cooper and started driving around putting on a circus trying to elect the next Speaker of the House. Because they make drunk toddlers look like rocket scientists, they couldn't even pull that off. And none of them could agree on who was going to be Speaker, and so finally they just got burnt out and they're looking around the room, and finally they're like, wait, who's that guy? Look down, that little gremlin looking dude right there. Who the fuck is that? I'm like, I don't know, I've never seen that fucking guy in my life. Hey you, Gizmo, what's your name? Who are you? I'm Mike Johnson. I've been here since 2016. We've met literally dozens and dozens of times. I have literally never seen you before in my life. My office is right next to yours. I swore that was a storage closet. Anyway, cool. You want to be Speaker of the House? Awesome. Anybody here object to the small, weird little man nobody's ever seen before being Speaker of the House? Yep, we know nothing about him. How bad could he be? Let's let the weird little guy have a shot, because we're not getting anywhere with this. He then seized his opportunity to accomplish nothing. Literally the most incompetent Congress in U.S. history. He's passed almost nothing. Except TikTok bans. They're passing those every other day. In fact, it's been Minnie Johnson who's been the driving force behind getting both of them passed, including the one he just attached to $95 billion worth of foreign aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. Because he sucks. Speaking of him sucking, his party apparently also thinks he sucks, or some of them, because now they're trying to fire him too again. Which at this point, you know what? Please, for the love of God, do it. Y'all can't be any fucking worse than you are now, and we just want to watch it all burn to the ground. I'm sure it'll go way better this time. But anyway, like every member of Congress, he's up for re-election again this year. So Louisiana, you've got a chance to elect somebody who sucks less. And I know a Democrat might be a big ask, but he's even being primaried, and literally nobody is worse than him. So vote for that guy, maybe. Just do anything different. Put a gerbil in there. I don't care. We're just all sick of seeing Mike Johnson.